Live from the Four Aces Studios, Four Aces Presents brings to you West Coast Bias.
The following Four Aces production is for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is highly advised.
Hey, what's up, y'all? What's up? This is Double KK Double here, and I am here on this month's edition of West Coast Bias. I am here as always, joined by the lovely Miss O'Malley and the one and only Abdoual. What is up, y'all?
What's up?
Okay, what's going on now?
All right. So, since the last time that we spoke, the biggest thing that really took place was the NFL draft, and we'll jump right in hot with pretty much exactly what we were talking about when we were off air here with the Aaron Rodgers situation, which there's some that say that this story hijacked the draft. It was released right before the draft. Some people blame Aaron Rodgers. I guess according to Malley, Rodgers has come out recently and said that it wasn't him or his camp that released it. But Malley, kick us off with your thoughts on should Aaron Rodgers want out of Green Bay, and how soon do you think before he will be?
Well, supposedly what it sounds like right now is that his beef is with the GM, right? So what he said, basically, it's the GM or it's me. That never tends to end well for any players. Khalil Mack, anybody, although that was more of a holdout than anything, but that saw Khalil Mack going head-to-head with John Gruden, and we know how John Gruden is about holdouts. But as far as the Aaron Rodgers thing goes, it seems like there's just trouble in Green Bay. And it sounds like Green Bay is the one who released the Rodgers doesn't want to be in Green Bay anymore, but refuses to trade him. He was interviewed while he was at the Kentucky Derby and basically said he was very disappointed that information was leaked, that it did not come from his camp. But he also didn't deny that that's how he's feeling. So I think that speaks volumes. I mean, he could have come out and said that's not true, this or that. I mean, his response was basically, I'm disappointed that this information was released. It wasn't released for me. And, obviously it's very sketchy timing because it all did come out before the draft. And we see like these huge headlines, that come out, people trying to damage other people's names and all of that before the draft. Usually it's happening with the draft picks themselves. I think that there is this underlying, you try to smear somebody's name in hopes that maybe they'll fall to you, right? Especially if you know that you're the ones putting the information out there, that it may be not as worrisome as you're making it sound to other people, but it could make their draft stock fall. This, it's very interesting timing. You kind of wonder, I almost feel like this would have been more interesting to have released right before, free trade had started, free agency had started. But it also could have made people a lot question. It would have been also more interesting had they had him up as a pawn to trade up anywhere in. I mean, that's maybe possibly what they were hoping for, was that people would hear that there's discord and come to them in hopes of, hey, let's make a deal, some draft picks, this and that, and you give us Rodgers. I mean, that was perfect timing for something like that to happen, but ultimately we didn't see that. Basically, there's trouble in Green Bay, and I don't feel like it bodes well for any team who tries to force a player either to play or into retirement, which is what Green Bay has said. You either play or we'll make you a TV analyst. So Green Bay seems to be pretty dug in on where their stance is. But who knows, as the season, as it gets closer and closer to season, is OT starting to happen? Although, it's questionable because there's a lot of teams that are coming out too and saying that they're opting out of, their preseason shenanigans, not games and stuff, but a lot of the workouts and stuff that would happen before camp, they're opting out. So, and I believe that a lot of that has to do with COVID. But it's very suspect. I'm curious to know, I wouldn't put it past the GM to have been the one to leak all that shit, right? I'm like, right. I'm butthurt because he, is putting me on blast, and there's something definitely going on there. I think he was really, really angry after they lost that playoff game. And I think that has kind of soured him towards management. I think he blames management a lot for the outcome of their playoff season.
Well, the coach is directly tied to it with the way he called the play. Like, I've heard about it a billion times on ESPN about how he chose to kick a field goal instead of going for it on fourth down.
Going for it on fourth down.
Yeah. So
we're kind of back to Pete Carroll in Seattle. You should have handed it to Marshawn Lynch on the 1 yard line, right?
Amen. Well, I'll say, so Abdoual, your thoughts on should Aaron Rodgers want to stay in Green Bay and this whole situation, how it's playing out?
Should he want to stay? I mean, sure. Everybody talking about the legacy and so on and so forth and playing for one team. But what has he really got to lose? Yeah. I mean, it's 50-50 either way. He just stay there and win, continue to have the same success, possibly win another Super Bowl, or he could go somewhere else and win, continue to have the same success, possibly win another Super Bowl. So, should he stay? Doesn't really matter. I mean, he is who he is. He's Aaron Rodgers. He's already done what he needed to do in the league to solidify himself as a Hall of Famer. So, it's really entirely up to what's going to make him happy. If he's happy in Green Bay, and they can come to some sort of an agreement as to the direction and the way the future, the team is going, then fine. But if not, then you can go several other places and instantly make them Super Bowl contenders. So, and you're not going to win if he's not happy, So,
very true.
I'd say find the situation that's best for him, that best suits him. If that's for Green Bay, then continue to do that. But if not, then, there's probably greener pasture somewhere else in which you could, you pull a Peyton Manning and go somewhere else and win, So, or even a Tom Brady, Who's to say he doesn't go to a demon, nothing super, San Francisco or, any one of those teams. So,
yeah. Well, what do we make of the Packers and like this year? Like basically the whole narrative with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers for the past few years when he came to the draft was that are they going to get him some help? Now, there's some that would argue that he's gotten help. Like they have two of the best running backs, or at least one of the best running backs in the NFL. They have Devontae Adams, who's easily one of the top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. They got a young and up and coming tight end. So like yet again this year they draft defense with the first round. They drafted a cornerback. Would some say that Rodgers has not? And O'Malley, you can kick us off with this topic. Would you say that he has not gotten the help that he needed, or would you say Rodgers has been given enough? His teams just haven't been able to get over the hump.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of both, honestly.
Okay.
If that makes any sense, just because, like, I think that they've gotten him some help, but whether or not it's the type of caliber of help that he was expecting. Whether it was enough on defense, whether, a running back and a wide receiver was enough. It could be argued that maybe the team's not old enough anymore. Maybe the team's too young, which is good down the road, right? But for right now, if you're trying to build up around a quarterback who is towards the end of his career, let's be honest. Age and everything, it's not saying that he's lost what he's got, but if you're trying to build up around an older quarterback, trying to make another run for a Super Bowl, building up with a young team doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. That's what you do when you're looking like 2, 3, 5 years down the road, right? So maybe he needed some more veterans on the team. Maybe he needed some – I think that he has an issue with trust, especially with younger players. So I think that some of that may have played a part in it, and I think he expected them to maybe do more in free agency. Maybe bring on some players who have proven abilities that he could trust going into it. So I kind of go both ways. I see what Green Bay's trying to do. I think they're building up for the future at this point. But that doesn't really bode well when you have a quarterback who honestly is on his way out.
So very true. All right. Sorry, I had myself on mute there. All right. So Rodgers topic, that's nice. Like that ate up a lot of the draft, but the draft picks that were taken are the ones that really stole the show. For the first time since 1999, they said, we had 3 quarterbacks taken in the first 3 picks of the NFL draft. Sorry. The Jaguars, the Jets, and the 49ers all drafted quarterbacks. But here was the thing that made, to me at least, this draft a little bit more unique. It was all really for 3 different reasons. And we'll start off in Jacksonville. They just signed Urban Meyer to a couple-of-year contract as their head coach. He's bringing in his staff. So they go out and they get themselves this young stud quarterback and a young stud and his teammate young stud running back from Clemson in Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence. And pretty much they're looking to build. Now I personally feel sorry for Gardner Minshew and all of this because I thought he played his ass off and played his heart out last year for them to say, you know what, we got the number 1 pick. So I know we went 1 of 15 and most of it wasn't your fault because you really balled out. We'll go on ahead and draft this kid to do our thing. And so let's start off with you, Abdoual. Your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer landing in Jacksonville and what that could mean for the Jaguars.
They're rebuilding from the ground up. That's a good place to start, I guess, with the offense. Trevor Lawrence and ETN, Urban Meyer. Nice little combo to get a young team together. So your expectations aren't high, and you're not expecting the team to win games and produce much. So whatever it is that they do is pretty much a blessing, So it's a good move in terms of football, in terms of starting all over again, in terms of rebuilding your franchise, but they're new. It's Jacksonville, So there's really been too many expectations, to begin with, So they're only going to go as far. I don't know. There really is no ceiling because Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback. He's an over offense. He's an over weapon, but he still needs those pieces around him, So you gotta ask, do they have the offensive line in place that's going to protect him? I mean, you saw what happened to Joe Burrow last year, right?
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 games into the season, Cincinnati can't. They don't know what's going on. He gets clobbered in the season, So when you're a young quarterback, it's really that easy when you don't know all the checks and balances and coverages and what to read and, pre-snap, post-snap, all of that. You got to go through all of that. You don't know it all and you can't communicate it, on that level, you're going to get hit. Trevor Lawrence didn't get hit much at Clemson, They kept him upright, and a lot of that is because, they had a consistent form, easy reads, and he was there long enough, and they won games. It was a successful formula. So it was easy for him to, adapt in these games to college level. NFL is something different, quite a bit more faster, it's quite a bit more complicated. So, Urban Meyer is going to help him along the way, but then we also have to realize this is a learning experience for him too. You saw what happened with what's my man from Alabama? We saw what happened with Nick Saban's NFL experience, right? When he came in quick. He was great in college and tried the NFL, was okay, didn't really work out, went back to college and became a Hall of Famer. Urban Meyer is a great, college coach. But this is his first experience in the NFL, and I'm sure he's got friends and so on and so forth. But it's like they tell you, it's nothing like it until you don't know the fire until you've been in it, So, it's going to be interesting to see their growth in the next, 2 to 3 years, and if they can actually build this team into a winner. And at this point, you're thinking 8-8 for them at any point within the next 2 to 3 years is a winner. Or what, 8-9 now because they're playing the 17 game. So 8-9, so either that would be, growth for them. To win 6, 7, 8 games somewhere in that range, it would be successful, and that's not asking for much. And of course the bar is raised, henceforth afterward, but it's so low right now that there's really not that much pressure that they really may surprise some people.
Very true. Now, Miss O'Malley, let us know your thoughts on should Trevor Lawrence want to be in Jacksonville as opposed to
Nobody
we know
should
how
want to
bad
be in Jacksonville. Okay, first of all, I'm not surprised any of this is going on in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer, 1, is a dick. Urban Meyer, 2, is a control freak. So Jacksonville, as it looked last year, will be nothing like it looks this year. And kind of like to piggyback a little bit off Abdoual, he's a college coach. And quite often we've seen with these huge college coaches, they just freaking bomb in the NFL. I mean, mind you, this is a man who also he left Florida due to exhaustion. I was living in southern Georgia when he was making his run at University of Florida. And he stepped back from football until he went to Ohio because of exhaustion, because of stress, because of all of this stuff, and to spend more time with his family, which I think is hugely funny when he then goes to Ohio and now has come to the NFL. As far as I'm concerned, nobody should want to be in Jacksonville right now. Jacksonville ain't going to be shit for some years to come. I think that picking him up as an NFL coach was not the smartest thing. I think that college championships have been a detriment to coaches when they've come into the NFL, because the NFL and college is so vastly different, and especially with how authoritative he is, that tends to rub adult NFL players the wrong way. Whereas when you're a coach over the college kids, they're at your mercy, right? Because they're on scholarship, you have their life in your hands. That's not necessarily the case when you hit to the NFL. You've got players who, management is going after, and you'll see, especially if the player's big enough, the player's going to get their say over others during certain periods of time. So I don't think that he is going to do very well in the NFL as a coach. I know people are probably like, well, what about Pete Carroll? What about Pete Carroll? Here's the thing with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll, yes. Did he coach USC? Absolutely. We don't have much to show for the time he coached USC because it all got taken away. Thanks, guys. But he had also had prior NFL experience before that. So it's not like it was his first rodeo, so to speak. And he came into a team that was already starting to kind of get developed. So, and he didn't come in and try to change everything. I mean, he may have changed coaching staff and he may have changed this and that. But Urban Meyer's such a control freak that, it could have been the best quarterback in the league and he probably would have come in and changed the quarterback, because he's not the one who hired him. That's the kind of attitude that he has. So is Jacksonville somewhere that anybody should want to be? I guess if it's like you're getting picked now going into Jacksonville, because if you were there before, chances are your job is on the line from day one.
Damn, all I can say is, that's pretty much true. That pretty much the success level of the high level elite college quarterbacks, or not quarterbacks, but head coaches throughout the years is not very good. There have been very few, and like you said, Pete Carroll is Pete Carroll is a diamond in a sea full of coal, to be honest with you, and so.
But he also went from a West Coast team to another West Coast team, and I think that kind of helped. Because West Coast teams are, and it's not just about the West Coast offense. West Coast teams tend to be more unique than some of the other ones. So if you're going from a West Coast college to a West Coast NFL team, you're probably going to bode a little bit better. I can't really say that for that SEC and Big Ten mentality. Yeah, no.
All right, well, let's move on to the number 2 pick in the draft. Now, this pick, like we talked about, the stories are completely different. These guys, everybody thought they had their quarterback in Sam Darnold, and I actually feel sorry for him just the same way that I felt sorry a couple of years ago for Josh Rosen out in Arizona. New coach comes in. You're not my guy. I know you've only been here a year or two, but you're out. And they trade Darnold to the Panthers. They go up, or they stay where they're at with their number 2 pick, and they take Zach Wilson out of BYU. I kind of like this kid when he was there. I kind of actually wanted him. I heard he was high on Shanahan's list, and the Niners were kind of hoping that he might drop to him, but of course he didn't. But I expect him to be successful in LaFleur's offense. out there in New York because Saleh took LaFleur with him. So, O'Malley, you kick us off with your thoughts on the Jets, and maybe this time they actually got their guy. This is like the third supposed franchise quarterback that they've taken, I want to say, in the past 5 or 10 years. So, your thoughts on Zach Wilson becoming a Jet?
I'm sorry. I feel for you. I feel like the Jets are the new Browns. Sadly, I mean, that's really what it's working out to be, like, because it used to be the same with the Browns, right? And even right now, it's still a little sketchy, but they did better this past season than they have before. I feel like the Jets have kind of just come in and taken that spot from them. And I feel like on paper and on real and on all of that, yeah, he might look like he's finally what they need in a franchise quarterback, but it doesn't make up for the fact that it's the Jets and the rest of the team is shit. So I always feel bad for these kids who go so high, because they go high because of their promise, and it's like you can kind of just see them go as soon as that team, it's like, please don't be the number one pick. Please don't be the number one pick. Please don't be the number one pick, because that means that the team that's picking me is the shittiest team that there was last year. So, I always feel bad for some of these kids who go real quickly, real early in the draft, because chances are that team needs more than just that piece. Mm-hmm. And if that team, for whatever reason, may not have the draft picks to build around them later on, may not have done much in free agency, but then puts all their hopes and dreams on this player that they haven't bothered to build the entire rest of the team around. You got to have more than just a quarterback. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, folks. And if anything, start with freaking defense, because that's what's going to give your quarterback a little bit of a rest too.
That's what put the Niners where they are right now, is drafting a lot of the defense that they have in the first round in recent years. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, all of those were first-round picks. There's
a reason why they say defense wins championships, and I feel like that's across the board in all sports. Yes, the offense is flashy, the offense is fancy, the offense might sell the tickets, but at the end of the day, if your defense can't keep the other team from putting up points, that means everything is resting on that quarterback and usually the receiving core. And that's just, it's not enough. That's how you burn out quarterbacks real quick.
All right, Abdoual, your thoughts on Robert Saleh and the boys, who's a very good defensive coordinator. Don't get me wrong, the man's pretty much 90% of the reason why, or I won't say 90, I'll say 60% of the reason why the Niners defense was as good as they were over the past few years. He's a hell of a coach. Your thoughts on Saleh getting his man in Zach Wilson out of BYU with the number 2 pick in the draft?
That was his man?
According to him, he traded away Sam Darnold for him. Gave away Sam Darnold for a bag of chips and a quarter.
And you say that man was your defensive coordinator, huh?
Yeah, he was the defensive coordinator for the Niners the last 3 years.
For a reason, obviously.
But you would have thought that his draft would have been a little more defense heavy, right?
Right. Specifically, definitely.
But that's why I'm asking the question. That was his guy. That was the guy. That was really the guy he did.
Well, okay, I will retract the statement of his guy, because it was probably more like Matt LaFleur's guy. That's the guy Mike LaFleur, the guy that he took with him, the offensive coordinator, to be his old coordinator when he went out there. It was probably more his pick than Saleh's guy, but. Oh, man.
Well, somebody needs to take responsibility for the stupidity, because then people don't know what they're doing. You don't sit at the bottom of not only your division but the league for so long and know what you're doing. Like at some point in time, you gotta turn it around. Yeah. You gotta find the corner, wherever it is, and turn it. They haven't done that yet. Now, when you have a quarterback that has evolved through the shitstorm, that has progressed and proven himself to be an effective NFL quarterback, and you trade him away for a rookie, okay? We're a little bit too in love with these rookies. All right. Let me just explain. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar, but there's levels of competition. Okay. So understand me. When you're in high school, right, and you go to college, the level of competition changes. Right. It gets tougher, faster, stronger. So when you go from college to the pro game, right, the same thing happens. Right, the level of competition gets tougher, gets faster, gets stronger. So when you play the most important position on the field, I guess baseball might be catcher, center field, maybe something like that, shortstop, something like that. Basketball, you point guard, right? Football is obviously the quarterback. You have to have something proven, okay? Now, if you're going to trade away a guy that's proven himself, right, for a guy that's totally unproven, at least go get the guy that's seeing something similar to the level of competition that he's going to face, right? You do yourself a disservice not drafting Mac Jones if that's what you're going to do. Yeah. Simply because the man has seen the level of competition that he's going to be playing against. And if you're going to take somebody and you're just going to throw him into the fire at this point, if it's not Trevor Lawrence, he would be the most NFL ready because he's on an NFL pro-style system and he's seen NFL pro-style defense. At least the speed, playing in the SEC, is it? So, what are you doing? You got several other needs that need to be addressed that you could address with this pick. You could have drafted that tight end for Florida. The Kyle Pitts guy. He's nice, right? You could have drafted one of them receivers from Alabama. You could have drafted the offensive line. You could have drafted somebody on defense. Just because you have the first round pick in the draft, one of the top 5 picks, doesn't mean you have to draft a quarterback, especially when you've already used the same pick to draft a quarterback just 2 to 3 years prior. Doesn't make any sense. Does it makes absolutely no sense. Whether you're bringing in new coaching staff, new coaches, new this, new that, that makes no sense. It'd be different if Sam Darnold was unproven. It'd be different if he didn't grow and evolve through the shitstorm that the Jets presented to him. But he did. He got better. He progressed, and he got better. And that team got just a little bit better each time, right? So what you're telling me is you're on your way home, and you see the corner that you have to turn on your way home, and you're going to turn around and start walking the other direction. Somebody don't know what they're doing. Somebody does not know how to get home. So that's unfortunate.
There you go. Now we talk about, like I said, I mentioned at the top of the segment, at the top of the subject matter, that we were going to have 3 different types of stories for these types of quarterbacks. You had the first guy that's going to the brand new franchise with the brand new head coach that's just out of college, that is looking to grow with this young kid. You had the second one with the head coach, a brand new head coach, but jettisons the old talented quarterback to bring in this new kid in this year. Like I said, similar to what happened with Josh Rosen out Arizona. Only different with Rosen wasn't as seasoned. He had only played one season before they jettisoned him and picked up Murray. Then you have the 49ers, who have Jimmy often injured, Garoppolo, and a man in Nick Mullins who attempted to step in and do something but couldn't at the end of the day. So it left the Niners in a position where they felt the need to go out and draft themselves a young stud quarterback to be their future, basically limiting Jimmy's days in San Francisco. I expressed to you guys before, and I expressed to Swab this week, I like this pick. The kid's young. The kid's got a room to grow. He doesn't have to start this year. As long as Jimmy stays healthy, Jimmy can continue to produce, knowing that when his contract is up, because here's the one thing that people forget about with the people that are screaming, trade Jimmy Garoppolo from the rooftops. Jimmy has a no-trade clause. So Jimmy goes where Jimmy wants to go. Their only other option would be to cut him. So at this point in time, I think they'd rather have him step in and be a mentor to this kid, and he's all up for that role because where the hell else is he going to go? What's going to give him any type of an opportunity to win a Super Bowl other than San Francisco? There's not really many places he's going to go that are in need of a starting quarterback because most likely if you're a Super Bowl contender, you have a starting quarterback in place already. So, Abdoual, kick us off with your thoughts on Trey Lance and how he fits into that whole situation out there in San Fran.
No, man. Hold on. Give me a second. I got 3 words for you. Don't get Kaepernick.
Okay.
Try it. Don't get Kaepernick. Period. Don't go fall in love with the numbers, right, to a guy who hasn't seen nowhere near the level of competition he's getting ready to see. Right? Go fall in love with the numbers and then find out that he needs that much more development than what you think he needs. And if you're not going to be patient and wait for him to develop, I mean,
You keep
what
it
are you
moving.
doing? Yeah, basically. So, like I said, don't get Kaepernick. I hope he is what they think.
I'll put it to you like this. I don't think, unless Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt again, I think there is zero intention of starting him this year. Like, I don't think there's any plan for him to do anything other than hold a clipboard this year. As long as Jimmy stays healthy, that kid won't see a play. Now, he may end up being the starter next year, depending on how well he grasps the offense over the next year. But I doubt, even Shanahan said that the reason why they're happy they still have Jimmy, the reason why they're keeping Jimmy and not moving him and not even attempting to move him is because they want this kid to sit. They have no intention of this kid and be coming in and throwing his feet to the fire and, hey, save the franchise type thing. So I feel you. Like, don't get Kaepernick. Like, don't throw this kid in there when he's not ready. But that's what Jimmy gives them the leeway to do, is to not have to throw this kid in there when he's not ready. And they also have what's up?
We hope.
We hope, yeah. Well, no, but also, and like I mentioned to Malley off air when we were talking about this, there's 5 quarterbacks in that quarterback room for the Niners right now. And I believe at least 3 of them are going to make the roster. You're going to have Jimmy Garoppolo, you're going to have Trey Lance, and you're either going to have Josh Rosen, Josh Johnson, and I forget what the other guy's name is. But there's 3 other guys. 2 are probably going to be put on the practice squad. 1 and 3 will make the roster. And so I think we could end up seeing Josh Rosen. If Jimmy gets hurt this year, we could see Rosen before we see Lance.
Okay, can I present a situation, hypothetical situation?
For sure.
Right? So, say he's a 3rd string, right? Mm. So he's learning the Shanahan offense, so on and so forth. He's not going to be ready this year. Jimmy gets hurt, nothing serious, God forbid, nothing serious, but he has to, balanced time, go back and forth between him and Rosen and Mullins, because you don't want Trey Lance, you don't want to just throw him out there, right? And protect him a little bit, right? So the Niners have an unsuccessful season in which they don't make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? All right, so we keep Jimmy next year, right? Hoping, again, to give Trey Lance just a little bit more time, right? But next year, again, this is all hypothetical. Next year, Jimmy gets hurt again, and misses more time. The Niners have an even worse season. And now we're kind of starting to put Shanahan and, but on the high seat. Start Trey Lance. He's not ready. Right? So we got 3 years down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Are we keeping Jimmy? Are we starting Trey Lance? What's going on here? So on and so forth, whatever you do. Say Jimmy's going and you're ready to start Trey Lance. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you run Trey Lance, but the Niners don't have a successful season.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is all hypothetical. I'm not saying it's all hypothetical.
Yeah.
Now, you say, okay, it's Shanahan's fault. Let's fire Shanahan because we like Trey Lance. So you get a new coach. He brings in a new system. Now, he's been learning this old system for 3 years now? So now he's got to learn new language, new system, new so on and so forth. Is he going to be ready? Again, this is all hypothetical. Is Trey Lance going to be that guy that says, okay, I don't necessarily need Shanahan in that system. Let's say the system wasn't working. If I get something more suited to my needs, to how I play, then we can be successful. Is that going to be the case?
Okay.
Is that
hold on. I'm going to kind of address it point by point because there's a couple of points in which I think you go worst case scenario when the way things are trending.
Of course. That's exactly. Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at stuff like this. I'll put it to you like this: if Jimmy gets injured again this year, Jimmy is not our starting quarterback next year. They can release Jimmy, and he only counts $2.8 million in dead cap money. They can cut Jimmy. They don't have to trade him, and they don't eat a big cap number. So that's the thing about Jimmy's contract that makes it okay for them to keep him the way he is, because they can literally let him go at any point. And I think even at max, they're maybe taking a $3 million hit, and they gain 20-something million in cap room to let him go. So the way the contract sits, if Jimmy gets hurt again, he's gone. As far as Trey Lance already showed, at least as far as from what I'm hearing out of all the articles I'm reading from Shanahan and Lynch, Trey Lance has already shown that he understands the basics of the offense. They just want to give him a year to get up to speed to playing in the NFL. I think they pretty much expect him to be ready to start by next year. If that turns out not to be the case, like you said, at the end of the day, it may end up costing Shanny his job. And then we're starting over from square one. I see that as a worst-case scenario. I think this kid will be ready, that Shanahan, the quarterback's coach, they'll all bring him along at the proper rate, that by next year, I believe that Jimmy's on this every other season. He has a whole season thing. So hopefully this year he'll actually play a whole season. That's what I'm hoping for. Now,
not that you just opened the door for Murphy.
Yeah, I say I'm hoping for it. I'm not guaranteeing shit.
We call those the contract season.
But then check it out.
Yeah,
here's the beneficial thing. Here's the beneficial thing about Shanahan's offense. It is predicated around the run. So as long as those running backs are producing, there's not really going to, if Trey Lance is thrown to the fire, there's not going to be much expected of him. All he's going to be doing is turning it around and handing it off. The kid's not going to be expected to be like Patrick Mahomes and throwing for 400 or 500 yards every game and going out there and putting the team on his back and carrying them. He's just going to be asked to turn around and hand it to Mozart, hand it to Wilson, hand it to Gallum, hand it to the other kid, Sermon, that they got out of Ohio State. That's the great thing about the position that he's in, is that Shanahan really does have a wealth of riches. What he does with them, whether he succeeds or fails, is completely on his shoulders at this point, because Lynch has went out and built him a defense. The offense, he now has his guy at quarterback, and he has a guy to use as a bridge till you can groom this guy to be as good as you want him to be. What I'm saying is worst case scenario, this is a Cleveland Browns situation. Trey Lance is going to flame out, and the Niners are going to be starting over in 3 years. Best case scenario, this is Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith in Kansas City. Like that's really what you're looking at on either side of the coin. Worst case scenario, they win 2 games over the next 3 years and end up with a bunch of first round draft picks that aren't theirs. Or this kid pays off. He turns out to be Patrick Mahomes, and all is good in San Francisco. But Heather, your thoughts on Trey Lance?
I think it's funny because it wasn't but just a few years ago that Niners fans thought that Jimmy G was the second coming of Christ.
I wouldn't say the second coming of Christ, but he was somebody that they believed in. Maybe not you, but there were some of you went wild when he came on, and people thought he was the second coming of Christ coming in. And he cleaned up the end of that season, but then was a bust the next season, right? So Here's 2 things that might happen, okay? Is first, this is going to light a fire under Jimmy's ass, and he's going to go out there and play like the quarterback everybody thought he was when he came to San Francisco. So that's one. Or you're going to be seeing a lot of Jimmy G 49er jerseys on the clearance rack at freaking Ross. So, one way or the other, some people are probably going to lose jobs here over some certain things, whether it's him or whether it's, other staff. Yeah, hopefully, he'll allow this season to give them time to develop their quarterback. Otherwise, it's going to be straight from the frying pan into the fire for this new kid coming up, who's coming into a situation where right now he's got to feel pretty comfortable knowing that they're planning on developing him. That changes the second there's an injury. Yeah.
And that completely changes the confidence level too, the comfort level. And that in itself can change play. Yeah. Quarterbacks don't play well playing scared.
Yeah, very much so.
So, but what they do have going for them within all of this isn't even the quarterback side. It's the fact that they have built up their defense the way that they have. So that does give them a little bit more wiggle room on offense.
Yeah. Well,
that's
also,
the part. I think that's important when you're building up that side of the thing, is build up your defense first.
Right.
Because that takes some stress and some pressure off of your quarterback.
Right. When he doesn't have to put up 35 points a game. I'll say, and also you got to look at, they just did a little bit of retooling to that, or not retooling, but solidifying of that O-line. They just locked up Trent Williams for the next 6 years. So whatever quarterback plays, their blind side is protected. That man has like one of the highest grades at tackle by Pro Football Focus. Over the past couple of years, or last year with San Francisco, he was one of the top 3 tackles on Pro Football Focus. So they locked him up for 6 years. They brought in Alex Mack, who's on the tail end of his career, but centers can still play well a little bit later into their careers. At least I hope. But they brought him in for 2-3 years. He knows Shanahan's system from having played in it. He was the center for the Atlanta team that went to the Super Bowl. So they did some solidification of the offensive line.
Because that worked out so well for them.
Well, they may have lost the Super Bowl, but that wasn't Alex Mack's fault.
Right. I know. I know.
But what I mean is those 2 signings will also continue to help keep Jimmy Garoppolo upright, because they won't have a bunch of moving pieces on the O-line all year, because they had 4 different starting centers last year was part of their problem on that O-line. But they solidified their center position. They solidified their left tackle position. They got their guy, Mike McGlinchey, a few years ago in the draft at their right tackle position. They got some decent guards. Hopefully Jimmy can stay healthy. That'll be the key to everything with the 49ers this year, is that Jimmy stays healthy when it's been proven. Like Max Kellerman says. Max Kellerman makes this argument on First Take all the time about Jimmy Garoppolo. Hate him as you may, the numbers say that the dude's a halfway decent quarterback because the Niners are 24-8 when he starts, and they're like 7-26 when he doesn't. Regardless of how many people are hurt or not hurt, whether the defense was fully intact or not, they are 7-26 without Jimmy Garoppolo under center. So hopefully he stays healthy. They can have another good season. Maybe they can even get some trade value for him. I think that's what Shanahan and them are hoping the most, is that they're truly hoping that he plays well this season and they can get some trade value for him and move him somewhere and maybe get back one of those first-round picks that they use to move up to the number 3 slot next year. So, but we'll see how it all pans out. We'll end this draft talk with one last thing. Was there any teams that surprised you with this draft? Heather, I know the Raiders kind of dumbfounded you with their pick in the first round. So we'll let Abdoual start us off, and then I'll go last. Abdoual, was there any team in the draft in that first round that just surprised the hell out of you with the move that they made? Trading up, trading down, who they selected, anything like that?
The Jets.
Yeah. There you go. O'Malley?
What was the question?
What team surprised you with basically the pick that they made in the first round?
I don't know. Again, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. I'm going to be honest here, okay? I'm still butthurt with the NFL right now, and I'm still angry that the Raiders moved to Las Vegas, and I'm still boycotting and all of that. So I'm just going to still have to go with the Raiders, and it's not necessarily the position that they took, but it's where they took them from. Haven't you learned your lesson with Alabama at this point? I get why you took a tackle. I get it. You know, you want that protection for Carr. I'm kind of surprised that Carr is still the quarterback. It's like they're going to go down with him. And I'm just like, if you're going to pick Alabama, go for defense. That's what they're known for. They're SEC. That's what they're known for. But as far as the rest of it goes, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. I'm on my college ball right now because I'm still really butthurt about the Raiders move. So
fair enough. For me, it was actually, and this is going to sound weird, it's the Dallas Cowboys. And it wasn't because of who they picked. Micah Parsons is a pretty good linebacker. I've been following him for a few years over there at Penn State. It blew my mind because they traded back with a division rival. Like they and then allowed that said division rival to take the best wide receiver, or at least one of the top 2 wide receivers in the draft. Like wait, you traded back and then allowed your division opponent to get better.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Like it just doesn't make any type of sense to me. And then on top of that, I will say that Dallas's pick, as much as I like him, it baffled me because, okay, now here's yet another top-tier wide receiver that you have to face in your division, and you still didn't go out and get a corner? Like, really? And so, yeah, Dallas Cowboys were the one that surprised me. But, all right. Let's go ahead and take that break.
They drafted some.
Yeah, but you know what?
It's the same in the third round.
Did they draft the corner in the third round?
Golden State.
All right.
Yeah, they drafted the corner. He's supposed to be pretty good too.
All right.
He was on Last Chance U. The corner, I think it's Nashawn. I can't remember his last name, but he was on Last Chance. He's pretty good.
All right. I did not know that.
It's
Heather,
the same reason why I think. It's the same reason why I think that Rodgers to San Francisco would be dumb. At least a dumb move on Green Bay's part. You know, if you're going to get rid of him, if you're going to trade him, you trade him to the AFC. You don't trade him, especially you don't trade him to the Niners. Right?
Give them the final piece that they need?
Exactly. That would just be dumb. Then again, we've seen dumber shit happen that leaves us like, what the fuck were you thinking? And you lost your job tomorrow.
You know, hey, just so you know, I'll throw this out there before we go to break, but Aaron Rodgers did list the Raiders as one of the 3 destinations he'd be willing to go to.
Well, I mean, I'm sure his boy Woodson would support him in that.
Yep. All right, y'all, you're listening to West Coast Bias right here on the 4H Presents Radio Network. We're going to take this break right quick, come back and talk a little NBA, talk a little MLB before we close this out. Good afternoon, folks. This is K-Double-Double-K, and you're listening to West Coast Bias right here on the 4Aces Presents Radio Network. If you like this show, you can catch me later on today on the Cheap Pop Podcast at 5 p.m. with Alpha.
So, what's up? Steve Fingerstyles here, the host of the podcast, spelled D-A, of course. Tune in each and every week to hear what pisses me off, what angers me, what I make fun of, and of course, my crazy rants. I also have incompetent co-hosts, cool guests, and a silent producer that sucks. So what more do you need from a podcast? You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, and the Pod Bros Network. Peace.
Hey guys, this is Venice, and I've got a message from a friend of mine about my favorite podcast.
It's your boy, Flavor Flav in full effect. Check this out, everybody. I want y'all to go check out TJ.
What's good, everybody? TJ Johnson here for Voice from the Underground. I am the most handsome.
Big Has.
And I'm smoking my cigar, of course.
You know what I'm saying? The Dutch.
You pick me up in an Uber and a PT Cruiser, I'm calling Lyft.
Cause they be fighting the power, talking about social issues, politics, you know what I'm saying?
And we're not even that good.
Right, we're terrible. Terrible. Tangents all over the place.
And not only that, but they be keeping it fun with the sports, music, comics, and movies too.
Am I allowed to talk?
I think no, not right now.
Shut up, colonizer!
You know what I'm saying? He on Twitter at VFU Podcast. So you can find them. So check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy.
Okay, what Flav was trying to say is, check out Voice from the Underground on your favorite podcast network.
Voice from the Underground.
Man brain. You know you want it. You know you need it. Let me introduce you to our team of audio professionals, 100% committed to giving you the greatest extreme comedy podcast of all time.
What's SPH? I'm so super cute.
Send me your orgasmic release videos.
You can get it rootin'. You can get it tootin'. You can get it doing doughies in your yeet. Mi nombre es Tío Yeti. And you just laugh at little Hank. I ain't gonna pretend I is fresh. But looks like you might like that.
And most importantly, I'm Skullfucker. Rah! Go to manbrainpodcast.com to get orally violated. Manbrain out.
Hey, what's up, y'all? And we're back. All right, so we talked about the NFL draft there, almost an hour worth of draft. So let's dive into a little bit of this NBA season. We're almost done. I think all the teams literally have about single-digit amounts of games left. They're only playing 72 this year instead of 82. I think so. So like everybody's down to like their last 72 years. Everybody's down to like their last 10, 11 games. So playoffs are really shaping up. So far, we've got, let's see, in the East, we got Brooklyn on top of everything by a half game over Philly. We got Milwaukee pulling up third, 3.5 games back. We got the Knicks, Hawks, and Celtics all sitting on guaranteed playoff spots. And then we got the Heat, Hornets, Pacers, and Wizards probably having to do that play-in tournament. Abdoual, kick us off. Your thoughts on which team in that Eastern Conference is really surprising you? Some would say it's the Knicks, others the Hawks. What would it be for you?
I would say the Knicks, because they have a real young, kind of thrown together team. It's not really something you'd expect to be successful, yet they are. But they're just playing hard. They're playing some real good team basketball. So they're a team that's surprising me the most on the Eastern Conference. I would say it would be Miami the other, and I thought Miami would be a lot more successful than what they are.
Yeah,
but they got a lot to deal with. Exactly. But I'll say those are the two teams that are most surprising in the Eastern Conference.
All right. Heather, would there be any particular team that surprised you?
To what, make it to the playoffs or to win the championship?
Well, to be in the position that they are right now at this point in the season, we've got all 10 of these teams. Like maybe it's one that came in underneath, like the Heat with Abdoual, or one that maybe overachieved, like the Knicks for most of the general public at this point.
Yeah, I actually think that I'm with him on both sentiments right now. I mean, I can't really say it much better than that. I think that everybody expected more than what's happening. And then I think what we're seeing right now is some of the teams that people expected stuff from aren't producing the way that they were expected to. I mean, and then you've got teams who nobody would even have thought of who are actually kind of sliding in there. So I think this playoff season is going to look pretty interesting, and maybe not quite the picture what people thought it was going to look like going into the season.
For sure. Now on the West Coast, we've got the Utah Jazz. I tell you, that's one of my surprise teams there. A half game up on the Phoenix Suns, led by CP3 and Devin Booker over there with DeAndre Ayton. Followed up by the Nuggets, Clippers, Mavs, and Lakers, who are all in position to have guaranteed playoff spots, leaving Portland, Memphis, the Warriors, and San Antonio in the play-in spot. The Warriors look like pretty much as long as they can go 500 for the rest of the season, they'll get in. But Heather, is there any team in the West that's really surpassed what you thought they might do?
I don't know if there's a team that's surpassed what I thought they might do. I can't lie, I'm pulling for Portland aside from the Warriors, partially because I went to Portland State. So if there's any other team besides the Warriors that I would root for in the West, it would be them. Also, because you got the Oakland kid in Dame. And I have to give him mad respect after he came out, what was it, last week or the week before. And unlike LeBron, when his team fails, he takes responsibility. And I have to, my hat's off to him, because he stepped up and said, I got to play better. I got to be better. I have to be a better leader. Instead of usually when it's LeBron, it's like he takes all the credit when they're winning, but then everybody around him is responsible when they're losing. Mm-hmm. So I have mad respect for him, one, because he's an Oakland kid, so I got to show respect for him. But two, because I really think that is a leader right there. So, you know, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Plus, I always really enjoy just watching the Warriors and the Blazers play against each other in the playoffs. It's always interesting. So, yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at. There's not a whole lot of surprises. We're kind of on the edge of our seat right now on who's going to fill in those last couple spots. Yeah. And, you know, it is going to be what it is. But I definitely don't see the Lakers going all the way again this season.
Well, they're currently sitting at a 6
And I don't
seed.
think it should have. Yeah. Well, there you go. So.
Well, all right. So
enough said. Sorry,
thank you
Abdoual.
for. No problem. Thank you for the segue there, actually, O'Malley, to Abdoual and your surprise team. And then why don't you start us off with your thoughts on the Lakers sitting in that 6th spot and what that means for them come playoff time.
There's no team that really surprised me in the Western Conference. I knew Phoenix was going to be good when they got Chris Paul. I didn't expect them to be that good. I figured them to be maybe about a 5 or a 6. But, yeah, I guess Phoenix would be the team that surprised me because they played so much better than expected. You know, and it was expected that they would be better, and then it would start to come together. But they really played some great ball this year. As for the Lakers, you know, it's all 50-50, right? Because you look at the team as AD hasn't really been there all year long, and he was a big piece. Yeah. But they somehow managed to get by and still be the Lakers. Losing Bron and AD, that kind of sent them into a tangent. You know what I'm saying? And into a sort of a downward spiral, if you will. But, tailspin. There you go. But it was a good thing because everybody else got to see what they needed to do to right the ship. All right? And they just barely managed to keep their head above water. 8-12 in the West. They played some really. They didn't play no scrub teams. They played some really good teams. Even that Washington team that they lost to, like Washington's been hot. You know, so you gotta get what they just do. But all that being said, it was good. Not necessarily a good thing. It was an experience. An experience that the other guys needed. Excuse me. Slater and KCP. And then adding Ben McLemore and Andre Drummond, even though Andre Drummond has been slow coming along and really kind of needs to pick up the pace and really get up to speed in order for this team to get back to the level that they were at last year. So it's all a chemistry thing right now because nobody's really been there. It's been Brown most of the season, and he's missed most of the second half. AD's missed most half of the season. We just got Drummond. We just got McLemore. All these new additions that can be, really big additions for us. Come playoff time, guys that can really provide that spark and energy that we need to be successful. So it's really just a matter of them coming together and getting the play team that they need. Home court advantage hasn't been home court advantage. I think things may change a little bit in the playoffs, adding a few more fans to games. I don't know how that's going to work out. But if they continue to play like they have been playing, and more limited to very few fans, the Lakers have been a better road team this year than they've been a home team. It's like they like going on the road, coming together. They're used to that bubble experience. They're used to not having, no fans there and playing off that just, off these two teams in the gym, that 24-hour fitness gym type feel, atmosphere, where it's just quiet and it's just, two teams going at it. They've been thriving in that. They won a championship last year in that environment. This year, like I said, they've been a better road team than they've been a home team, and they've been good at both, but again, they play so much better on the road actually than they do at home. So home court advantage for them, I don't think is going to be a problem, and it may not present itself to be a problem until they introduce, a thousand of fans. When you get an arena in there, and then it starts to erupt, and the energy and the momentum that the fans provide, begins to play factor, then it may come into play for them. But once they get the rhythm down, once they get, they take these last 7, 8 games to really get into game shape, into play-in shape, really get some good game film and be able to break down, what things they need to do, places they need to be, spots, areas, so on and so forth, they'll be that dominant team again. But it's going to take all 7 of these games and the first round. If they can hold on to that 4th spot, I think they need to hold on to that 4th spot just to kind of give themselves a little bit of a leg up, a little cushion, going deeper into the playoffs. They can hold on to get back to the 4th spot, and hold on to that, because not many games that separate them. They can get there, hold that, and just get first round, throughout the first round. I think that puts them in a much better position. But I also think that this is a team that is good enough, talented enough, and experienced enough to, go into any situation and know what they need to do to win, each game, so they're able to win each series.
All right, fair enough. So let's take a look at the other side of it with O'Malley and kind of give us your thoughts before we move on to baseball here about the Warriors season so far. They're sitting at 32-32 in that 10th spot, hoping to reach the play-in game, but they'll have, even if they reach the play-in game, they'll have no James Wiseman. Oubre's kind of hurt, and they're missing, of course, Marquise Chris, who they moved on from during the trade deadline. But your thoughts on the Warriors, where they're at and where they could be going?
Well, first of all, I want to take this as an opportunity to give props to Steph Curry for his 96 threes in the month of April, which is more three-pointers than Larry Bird made during the entire 86-87 season. So
that is an interesting fact.
I just want to start. So I just want to give him props for that. It seems like, I think that the issue right now with the Warriors is, can they do it? Absolutely. But they've really fought not just with injuries this season, but like inconsistency. Like, they've won games they shouldn't have won. They have lost games they should have won. So, at the end of the day, it comes to looking at who are they playing the rest of their season against. Also, we're fast approaching, and it's going to be here before you know it. So, I don't know. I'd really like to think that they have the ability to do it, because they have really done some crazy things when everybody thought that they couldn't do it. So as a Warriors fan, I want to sit here and be like, yeah, they totally can do it, but they are having injury problems. They are having consistency issues. So in order to make that last seed, they're going to have to fix some of those. The injury's not so easily fixable, but the consistency, maybe. If Steph keeps playing the way Steph's been playing, then I definitely think that they can at least get into the playoffs. But again, just like LeBron can't carry a whole team, Steph can't either. I'm not delusional enough to be like, yeah, Steph can take them all. Yeah, that's not really the case. He needs the team around him, and right now they've been kind of inconsistent. We see flashes of the team that they are, and the team that I think that they will be. But this season, I think, honestly, it'll be an accomplishment in itself this season for them to just make the playoffs, especially after coming off of a season like last season. So to have them back in the playoffs this season, if they're able to do that, I think that just gives us more to build on for next season. I love my team, but I'm not delusional enough to be like, yeah, they're going all the way. I'm a realist, right? I can love my team and realistically be like, nah, bruh, they don't have what it takes to go all the way this season. I believe they have what it takes to get them in the playoffs and maybe through the first round, maybe. But after that, I mean, it's hope and a prayer.
All right. Now, I'll give you, I will agree with you on one thing. Here's where I will say this. I am genuinely hoping that the Warriors miss the playoffs this year. And this is why. Missing the playoffs would give them a lottery pick. If Minnesota can win a few more games, or potentially like one or two more games, they may end up with 2 lottery picks, one top 5 and one top 15. Even if they don't end up with the Minnesota pick, they still got a lottery pick. And if Minnesota sucks again next year, they'll end up with another lottery pick next year on top of their own. I would love to see them. I would love the perfect scenario would be for them to not make the playoffs and then for Minnesota to fall out of the top 3 and for the Warriors to end up with 2 lottery picks. Not to flip them and trade them for an established superstar, but to bring in 2 more young bucks to put alongside James Wiseman and then add Klay to that. You add yourself some depth. You get Wiseman with a year underneath his belt of experience. You get Klay and Steph back. You get Draymond doing his thing. And you've got now 3 to 4 guys on the bench. 2 that you might be planning on grooming in the starters, or 2 that you're planning on grooming in the starters, and 2 in Nico Manning and I forgot what the other kid's name was that they drafted this year, to help fill out the bench. And so I think that it works out better for them in general if they don't make the playoffs. And if Minnesota can slide out at 3, that's best case scenario for them. But if they do make the playoffs,
that's a logical way to look at it. That's the logical way to look at it, right? That's not the emotional. So from my clinical social worker side, there's the emotional mind, the rational mind, and the wise mind, right? So the emotional mind is where my answer came from. The rational mind right now is where your answer is coming from. So. And then I think you're about to give us the wise mind answer right in the middle.
Yeah. It's like I believe that they will get into the play-in tournament because at this point, we're about 10 games out from the end of the season, and they're like 3 games up on New Orleans. Like they can win enough games to get in. With Dallas out, I could see them sliding into that 7 or into that 8 seed. Because unless they slide into the 8 seed before the season's over, they have no shot at the 7 seed. They have no shot because the winner of the 7-8 game gets the 7 seed. So if they're not in that game, they have no shot at the 7 seed. But if they do end up in the 9 spot, which is where they're sitting at now, they could end up with playing in and being an 8 seed and ended up facing like a Utah that they've actually beaten, I want to say once or twice this season. And then got crushed the other 2 times that they played them. But they can end up in a good first round series, but then I don't see them making it past Utah. Getting into the first round to me is where the ceiling stands with this team because of injury and just also because they're still coming together. So first round matchup, lose to Utah, and then like I said, go do your thing next season. Because I still think they'll be a completely different team and a team you don't really want to see next year once Klay gets back. But that's if he comes back as half of what he was. But anyway.
Who's not to say he doesn't come back better?
Yeah, true.
We've seen that happen.
All right, so we'll jump to our last subject of the day, and that is Major League Baseball, where the Bay Area specifically, well, Bay Area and now Southern California as well. You know, I know there's some of us on this show that might say fuck the Dodgers. But they're doing well, as well as the Giants, who are sitting in first place, as well as the A's, who are sitting in first place. They just won today, 7-5. It seems like baseball's going good in California right now. So, you know what, dude? Go ahead and kick us off with your thoughts on the Giants' success and A's, and maybe the potential of us seeing another Babe Ruth series this year.
It sounds good. You know, it would be nice, but there's still a lot of season left. You know, and, I'm always worried about the A's. Got 1 or 2 points. Consider the start of the season, where they're gonna suck, but then you know they're turning around the All-Star game, or at the end of the season, after the All-Star game, when they start off the season hot, and then they hit the All-Star game and they suck after that. So can they stay consistent through the whole thing? I hope so. The Giants, it's all a matter, again, consistency. They've done a great job this year of winning each series. I haven't won every game, right? But they've been able to somehow manage to win each series with the exception of the Padres. And the Padres are good. And their division is tough. So it's going to be hard for them to sustain that level of consistency. You know, playing in a division where you, with counting them, you got 3 possible playoff teams, right? So I think they can do it because they're playing the formula of baseball that got them, you know, to the World Series, you know, the 3 and the 5, you know, so many years ago. So, you know, just 2010, 2012, and 2014, right? So it's that small ball, solid pitching, you know, good defense, timely hitting, get some guys on base, you know, just let Buster clean up the bases. Longoria's doing pretty good. You know, it's been a solid point. Now, you get a bump in the road with San Diego, got to bounce back from that, and then continue to sustain that level of consistency that's going to first allow you to compete in a division that's going to be tough to win, you know, much less come out of.
All right. And O'Malley, close us out with your thoughts on the A's and their success this year as well as the other California teams.
Well, you know, I'm impressed to see them being a first-half team right now because historically speaking, they really don't come alive until after the All-Star break. Right. So, you know, and it's been said a lot, if they could only play before the All-Star break the way they play after the All-Star break, I mean, it would be some damage. So kind of like what Abdoual was saying, that's going to be a real big thing to see after the All-Star break is how they're able to keep up their consistency, to keep up all of this power that they seem to have. And, you know, there's quite a few teams that are in on both sides, whether it's the National League or the American League. There's quite a few teams right now that are just neck and neck. You know, they haven't played a hell of a lot of games right now. I mean, they're maybe, I don't know, depending on how long the season is this year.
30 games into the season?
Yeah, they're 30 games into the season, but what did we determine? How many games are they going to be playing this year?
I thought they were playing a full 162 because they started on time.
Are they playing a full one? So I mean, that's definitely right. They're still real early in the season. Like, I love the A's. I love my team. I grew up watching them, but I think I also have some A's PTSD, you know? So, like, getting my hopes up this early in the season, I don't do it. I wouldn't do it during basketball season either. They just play far too many games. I do like what I'm seeing so far, but right now to even be talking about, like, how the playoffs are gonna look out, like, come at me after All-Star break. You know, come at me after the All-Star game, and then we'll really see. That's when I really start paying attention to the standings, unless you just have teams that are, like, far surpassing other teams. It's usually after the All-Star break and the All-Star game and all of those shenanigans where I start paying attention to the standings because they play so many damn games. Yeah. But right now, you know, if the season were to end right now and we'd be going into the playoffs, we very well could be looking at another battle of the Bay. I'd much rather see that than, you know, the Dodgers and the A's. Like, I'm still butthurt over the 88 World Series. Yeah, I have a really long memory and I hold grudges. So, you know, it'd be really nice to see another battle of the Bay. We almost got it some years back. And, you know, just missed it. And that would have been really cool because I believe that the Giants actually went on that year to win the World Series, or they lost it that year. I don't remember. But, you know, that would be, as somebody who grew up, born and raised in the Bay Area, that would be an awesome thing to see. But we have a lot of season left to play. I think both the A's and the Giants are playing very well right now. Obviously, the Dodgers are too, but fuck them. Who cares? So, you know, there's a lot of season left to play, but I'm still going to, you know, regardless, I'm an A's fan.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I will always support the A's, and I'm happy that they're doing well this season. Last season, they went to the playoffs. They played well pretty much all of the shortened season and were able to get through the first round of the playoffs. Let's see if they can do something similar this year. The Giants, well, they've had a couple of down years, and you know what? It's about damn time for them to get back to playing. They, you know, I believe 14 was the
but
last
it's an
time
odd year.
Yeah, it's an odd year.
Odd year,
so
though,
no World
so,
Series. Series. But all right, so let's close this out, guys. I want to thank y'all for joining us, those who listen in. Thank you to the Saint for listening in. He said what's up earlier. Sorry we didn't get to that. You know, we get to flowing, we get to going. But this has been West Coast Bias. We'll be back in a few weeks, probably towards the end of the month, to talk a little bit more NFL offseason. And by that point, we'll be into the NBA playoffs and get some juicy storylines going. So y'all got any last words for the people? O'Malley?
Yeah, just go Warriors, go A's.
All right.
Fuck LeBron.
That's the one I was waiting for. Duel?
Yeah.
Duel, any last words?
Good night, people.
Good night, people.
Good night, people.
All right, so that's it for us this week. Y'all join us again. Like I said, join me a little bit later on tonight, about a half hour for Cheap Pop Podcast, and then join us next week for Double K's Classroom and then another episode of Cheap Pop Podcast. We'll see y'all in a couple of weeks for West Coast Bias. That's it for us. Peace.